probably when I close that tab because it may actually be moving in the background.
I'll put it on this tab. How's that?
No, just close that online timer tab.
Oh, close the whole tab.
Yeah, close the whole tab. Yep. Yep. There you go. Okay.
All right, are we going?
Yep, we're going.
Okay. Welcome back, or glad you stayed if you didn't even leave the room. I'm Matt Berry. I'm going to go over kind of where we're at with the enterprise program. So Alan Vodka is also my partner in going through the program, but she's sick. And then we also have been meeting with Pastor Ruth a couple times to check in. And then Pastor Ruth's also sick, so I'm the only person in the program right now here today. Thank you. All right. So if you're not aware, the Enterprise program is a faith-based development initiative, like it says on the screen. Basically, they've been around for a few decades, I believe, and they just work with churches and other faith-based organizations to develop affordable housing. And there's a whole array of what that looks like. And now we're in a cohort of about a dozen or so faith-based organizations, some mosques, some churches. I don't know if there's any synagogues, but yeah, there's a different faith-based organizations. And we've met in person once to get the kickoff going, and then we've had 2 online sessions. And it's a 6-month program, and so we're a month or 2 into it, and we'll go through, I think, April of next year. And then I guess I'll just jump into what the program's about. So I kind of cut and pasted some of these slides. So they also provide us, we meet about 2 or 3 times a month. And it's an online Zoom session, and it's right at the beginning of the workday, so I can make some of them, can't make other parts, and we'll get recordings of the Zoom and the slideshow of the Zoom. So if anyone's interested, we could also provide that to any people in the church as well. They said that's fine. So if you want more details to learn more, you're definitely welcome to ask us to provide those. So this is the enterprise, why they're here. And yeah, basically we're going to learn over the course of the 6 months just a breadth of all that's involved with, going from basically I think we're starting out, and there's people midway. There's a whole variety of where churches are at. But they're really going to give us all the information we need to get to the end. So it's a lot of information. There's people that spent decades doing this. So we're just going to get the overview of all the different parts. The goal for Alan and I are to become comfortably conversant. So to be able to talk about these processes, and we might not know all the details, which is fine, but we'll be able to kind of meet with people, talk with developers, with bankers, with all the different people involved, and not be completely overwhelmed, because it is a lot. Then it's also tied to faith originally. They mentioned Jim and Patty Roos, mentioned Church of the Savior. I thought there was also some nuns involved in the creation of low-income housing through faith organizations. So it was faith-based people that said, we need this housing, and happened decades ago. I'm not quite sure how old that picture is, but it looks like 70s-ish or something. I don't know. And then the core tenets of the program, racial equality, diversity, inclusion. They really want to reach out to as many people that need housing. Sustainability and resilience, so as much as they can. You know, they want to build good, solid housing that's also green. And that could mean different things to different communities. You know, it costs more to do that, but it's also like if it's a core principle, then that's what you do. And yeah, it's through faith organizations. And so part of it too is also like, I think a lot of people say like, where does the money come from, right? And so we're not alone that, you know, we don't have millions and billions of dollars to just build housing. We're a small congregation. A lot of these congregations, just as the course of churches go, have shrunk. And so that's a part of it too. Like it's, we're not totally out of we're kind of out of our element, but a lot of churches are in the same situation that have built low-income housing. And so part of it is that they can provide grants of $10,000. Enterprise provides us a grant of $10,000. And that could be for like a feasibility study, a market study. We apply for the grant, and they said they do have the funding to provide grants for all the cohorts in the program, but we also kind of need to know like, well, what do we want to use it for? We kind of have to have a vision. That's also part of these meetings, is to keep everyone in, like, Alan and I aren't going to make any decisions by ourselves, you know. We're just going to get all this information.
You guys just figure it out.
Yeah, we'll just go build some low-income housing, no problem. Then they also provide grants of $40,000 that are conditional. So if you actually start development, which I think is a little nebulous, it's not technically breaking ground, I don't think. But yeah, if you start development with them, then you can also get a $40,000 grant. And then they also provide links and resources to link you with different ways to get funding. So if you partner with a developer, sometimes the developer will provide money. If they're also gonna like co-own the land and the housing. Then there's also banks and other local, I don't know if local, state, federal grants and loans, depending on what you're building as well. So like if you're gonna build, like there's different levels of affordable housing, because I'm like, what the heck is affordable housing? Like I'd want to call it low income, but it's really a range. And so it can be, you know, like 30% of median income, 50%, 80%, and those different levels also have different kinds of loans you can get from the state or federal governments. And so it's not like one size fits all, and it does take some time to understand. Yeah, and then you can partner with Enterprise, and they have they've been working in the area for a while, and they do know like low-income developers, and so they'll be able to partner if we want to help. If we want to use their help, we can. And so it's really busy on the right side there. So that's just like what all the details that we're gonna see. You don't need to know all the details. But these are the 5 core modules that we're gonna learn in the enterprise program. And so like if anything like sparks your interest, or like you want to know more about certain things, we could provide that once we go through those modules. So I'm just going to go over what's on the left side, because I think it's almost too much information on the right side. So right now we're in the first module, Alan and I, and it's really just understanding what like affordable housing, the real estate market is. And so, yeah, what is affordable housing? Like I mentioned before, there's different levels. So like really low income, closer to middle income, and that range in there, and there's different funding for those. The planning and development process. So there's lots of, I'm gonna move this thing for me. Yeah, there's different needs for different groups of people, and let's see, the organizational readiness and buy-in. So, yeah, I can't speak to all this stuff, but yeah, basically we want to know like when we're ready. And like, I think it's part of what we went through before at the old church. We did a lot of check-ins with the congregation. And so I think we've already kind of done this in a different capacity before. And so it's not all new to us, but it's good to understand that like they even structured that in, that they have, the congregation understand and know like where they're going. And we voted a number of times with the old church, and so we'll see if that vote and that kind of structure, if we want to do that again, or how that's going to work. And then strategies for development. Yeah, just like that's also, I think, part of the buy-in too, is like kind of what are we envisioning. We already had a discussion, I think 2 months ago, just about like different ideas on what kind of things we would actually want to build in this space. And so that's something we could flesh out further, figure out, there's like senior care, low income, service providers, community space. So that's just a few ideas. There was probably a dozen or more. So that's also something we'll need to figure out. Let's see. Oop, click there. All right, then development decisions and community engagement. So, yeah, this little thing's covering my slide. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so site planning and process. So this is a lot of what the site is going to look like. Then all the like permits and stuff like that. Well, I don't know if that's there yet. Development models and teams and roles. So when there's, yeah, just we need basically another team to like move forward, and let's see. Yeah, I don't really want to read off the slide, but
So this is the curriculum that you and Alan are going to be going through for this process? Is that
yeah.
You're currently going to be learning about all this?
Yeah, so they gave us an overview the first session, and they went quickly through all this. So I don't remember all the details, but
How long will it take you to go through this curriculum? And I guess you can't answer that question right now, but at what point will you need to involve like larger groups of people as you go through the process?
I think we're still figuring that out. So I know that the curriculum is going to go through like April of 2023.
Okay.
We did not know that yet because he's just on the first module.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're still
Modules to go. And
like
I think
1B.
that's just the basic thing is you've got those 4 modules, or 5 modules, excuse me, that you have to go through, and they're pretty
Uh,
design and I can't.
So like a modular one.
Far away.
right?
Yeah, I can't read what's on there, so if you just wanna read the themes of each.
Yeah, I'll just read out, yeah, the core pieces,
Yeah,
just the left side here.
yeah. Just the big,
So-
just the modules, just the big five.
Oh, the 5?
No, well, yeah, the big five,
Okay, so we did introduction to real estate.
yeah.
The second one is development decisions and community engagement, which includes site planning and the process of site planning, the development models, and the teams you'll need to create, and the different roles involved from those team members in the church, engaging the community around the church, and then also developing a project mission just for the development process. The third module is the project design and the construction. So market feasibility, and I mentioned before that that could include a grant that we could get from Enterprise, selecting the design team and a concept, the approvals and the environmental reviews, so all the permits, all the environmental studies, environmental impact studies, and then you'll need to create a pre-development budget. So I think that's just as part of the pre-development, you create a budget. And yeah, that includes a lot of, well, yeah, that can include your, the money you have in the bank, your equity. There's a soft equity, a hard equity, and then you have your loans. And there's like soft loans that can be forgiven, kind of like the grant that we could get from Enterprise to start up. And then your hard loans that you would pay back to the bank with interest. And then there's also like federal income tax credits and other different grants from different organizations. And then green building and resilience. So I know we'd want to build a green building and something to last the long term. I don't know if it'll be completely hard concrete like our old building or that would last for like hundreds of years. But yeah, it's good to keep all those things in mind. And I know we as a church have a good sense of going for the long term and building well and building safe environments. Structuring the deal. So I don't know too much about these. I'll just go through the bullet points. The pro forma development, all the financial metrics, and the joint venture partnerships. So we'll probably partner with one or more different organizations. So maybe a developer, and like where we get our loans from, and yeah, we'll also probably have some specialists too. Like there's development consultants that would help us navigate different developers, that would help us like choose which developers to use. And then there's also kind of like advocates that are slightly different than that are, instead of just like a consultant that's kind of looking for both sides, the advocate might be more towards our side and a little more cautious on what we do. There's managing construction and marketing and lease up. So once we do provide affordable housing, then we'll want to market it and get leases, and that can happen before it's actually done. So we'd have people we'd want a good timeline so that everything lines up, and we'd actually have people to move in when the construction's done. Then a bunch of legal stuff, legal processes we'd need to consider. And then the fifth thing is project operations. So once all the construction's done, everything's ready to go. Kind of where we're at right now with the tenants, with our rental properties. We have property management, asset management. So not only are they paying the bills, but also like what stuff is going to break, what stuff do we have that'll last long term. Compliance. So there's lots of different rules once we actually start an affordable housing building. Then like you need to check, their yearly income to make sure they're still at the level, the 30%, 50%, 80% of median income. And so it's an ongoing process, and it's probably more complicated than your average rental where you just, the landlord asks for the checks, you get the rental checks. There's more checks and balances, and some of the loans are also dependent on that, some of the tax credits. So it does, there's more work. Resident services, so do we provide, buses or bus tickets or different services that come in, or childcare? That was a big request. And then partner roles and responsibilities. So those that we do partner with, how are they helping throughout the process? And even once the construction is done, how are we still interacting with them? So those are the 5 modules, really quickly. And then these are things that I personally just took a note of as I was going through the process so far. Some churches have created development corporations, LLCs, as a separate entity from the church just for their developments. And sometimes they're separate from, like they have an LLC, maybe they have a community center, or they're going to build one, that has its own. Maybe they have affordable housing, that has its own, and that's separate from the church. Is a nice clean separation, and they still actually gave each other loans to make it work, but that's something other churches have done. There's many different sources of funding. I think I mentioned, tax credits, loans from banks, grants. And it's also, they gave us one graph of the funding and then how it went into the construction. And there was 3 or 4 or 5 different sources of funding. So just because we get a loan from a bank or something doesn't mean we can't also get grants and tax credits and all that. And then how that's repaid or not repaid is all different too. So they're kind of their own lines. Then also I mentioned retaining a developer consultant or an advocate or a real estate lawyer, people that would have our side think about us as we go forward in dealing with these new partners, and people that have done it for a long time that know what to expect, that could also give us a lot of good advice. Then also we were thinking of touring other built spaces that have done this before. So our first in-person meeting was outside the Emerald City Bible Fellowship, which is down on Rainier Avenue. And they have, at first they called it Emerald City Bible Fellowship because they thought church had a lot of baggage to it. And so it looks kind of like an office building. And I pulled into the parking lot. I'm like, I thought it was an office building. I'm like, am I parking at somebody's office or something? And then they had an outdoor canopy, and we met out there. And then they also have a gym that's open to the community, and then they also have affordable housing. And they have extra space that they want to build more affordable housing. And then their actual building has a community center and a sanctuary but it doesn't say church, it doesn't look like a traditional church. So touring places like that would be, I think, really helpful. And then, I was thinking for this program of 6 months, it's helpful if we essentially envision that we'll have the 3 rental properties and the church property to build on. It doesn't mean that's going to happen, nothing's set in stone. We don't really know if this is going to be our long-term place, but for this program, it's helpful to say, we'll have this to build on, to build a new structure on.
You mean in terms of total square footage?
Yeah, and square footage and all the local codes. So like that it's a business district, and you could build this high, and so all that comes into play as well. And I know Ruth mentioned that churches, I think Seattle passed a law that churches can build like an extra level or two, extra story or two. And so all that comes into play. So if we want to build up and build all the square footage in this specific place. So, and then creating a development vision statement would be really helpful. I know we have a vision statement for the church. I think it's on our bulletin, but one just for like, where do we see this new development going? And we get to develop yet another church team in ministry because we don't have enough and we aren't spread thin enough. So that's really all I have for today. I wanted to catch everyone up on where we're at, and I know a couple people have chimed in, but if you have more questions for me now, I'm willing to take them.
Sorry, I missed the very beginning. This was your work with Enterprise. Are you guys also looking at and having conversations with another organization of thinking of trying to decide which one to sort of lead us through this?
No, right now, the Church Council of Greater Seattle also has a different program, but right now we're just focused on the Enterprise program. And so we're going to go through this program through April.
Okay.
And then there's like no strings attached, really. If we want to partner with them further, they do have banks that they partner with. We could do that. But there's nothing, we're not committed after April.
Okay.
And we're just gaining a lot of information from them.
How did you connect with this organization, or who recommended them, or how did we get?
How do we get connected, Enterprise?
Or how did we get connected with them?
Yeah, that's a good question for Ruth, because she brought me in midway through. So she had already filled out they had an application this past summer, and so she filled it out, and we got accepted. And she said, "Do you want to get involved?" And I said yes. And so I'm not.
Faith-led, or are they
Yeah.
just they're
Yeah, so it's tied to the founders, Jim and Patty Roos, members of Church of the Savior and Jubilee Housing. I swear that they said there were some nuns that were involved in providing some low-income housing as part of the founding, but I'm not sure the exact details, but yeah.
I think we got some information about it from the conference.
Okay.
So these aren't just random, okay. We should hook up with something like Hopeling and let them take care of all of the maintenance and all of that after it's all done. Let them handle the.
I think that comes when the
manage it and all of this and that, it's like, I don't see us
We won't,
doing that, no way, so,
we hire that.
right,
Business plan.
yeah, but,
Yeah, I think that's
Well,
it's
that's
a
where
good idea.
nonprofit developers
right,
can help.
Yeah, so, yeah, that could be
Low-income
part of the,
Housing Alliance, you know.
yeah, and if we should talk to Ronald Methodist and Shoreline, because that's what they did.
and are they partnered with Hope Link?
Yes. Yes, they are
Okay.
partnered with Hope Link,
Okay,
Did they redevelop?
yes. Oh, their church is still there, but their whole back property has been turned over and they've got a grocery store in there, community center.
oh, wow.
It would be a nice place to tour,
Yeah, add that to the places to tour.
you know.
Yeah,
And
that,
they have handicapped, apartments, they have apartments for, veterans.
It's
You know,
not a
so-
huge place though.
Yeah,
It's really not that big.
no, it's not, but it's nice.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like a three-story building though, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
it
go
is.
to-
It's
I
not
go
small.
for events every month, so.
Yeah, oh yeah, but it's, so that's just another place to go check and,
yeah, I think that'd be good to go there and ask them if they wanted to present on what they did as well and how they went through the process.
or you might have Shoreline, yeah, the people from Ronald talk about how they got to where they got to that point too,
Well,
yeah.
you have University Temple,
You
right
Temple,
in
there-
the city, and Trinity Episcopal downtown, they're redeveloped.
Yeah, and Howler Lake Methodist is also now going through a discernment of what to do with their property. So, there's a lot of, help out there, I guess.
Yeah, and since also we don't own this property too, Pat Simpson and Jan Bowlerjack, I believe, are also part of the cohort that we're going through with Enterprise. So they're representing the conference for the United Methodists, and so they're also learning what we're learning, and so they're not out of the loop either
Right.
as we go through this. And they're also, there's other United Methodists too. There's like one in Tacoma and a few others. So they're,
Isn't the United Methodist Church down by the airport, just beginning to determine what they're going to do with their property?
maybe, I'm not sure about that one.
Maybe where Jack Bowlerjack used to,
River,
Yes, where
Riverton.
John Bowlerjack used to be, yes.
yeah, that's
in
Riverton,
Riverton
I
Heights
believe.
or something like that.
So there's a lot of,
I mean, the cities are looking at large land use properties like churches and wondering if there's a better way to use the footprint. So there's some, city incentive to change things.
so that's exciting, I mean, there's just, the possibilities are out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for sure. But it's not easy. There's gonna be work involved.
It's
but-
not fast.
No, it's not fast either. And it's so many, hoops you have to jump through before you even, the legalities and this environmental studies and all that kind of stuff before you can get going.
But yeah, I mean, we don't need to get there. There's no timeline
Right.
from Enterprise. It's really up to us. So, and this is just gonna help us understand the process better and give us some more connections and some grants if we wanna apply for those.
There's probably more grants out there than we don't even know about, or,
Oh, and they have people that just like help you write grants too, like,
Grant writers, okay.
yeah. I mean, you would like hire them, but like they're, you know, for some federal grants and stuff, they said it's
Right.
really helpful to have that.
Well, thanks.
So is the Our Savior's Church that was, a founder, the Our Savior's in Washington DC?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, that does go back to the 70s.
Okay.
Actually,
So,
Daryl and I went to a church that was founded by and redeveloped in DC when we lived there.
Oh,
In
okay.
the 70s,
I think it's the same one.
yeah.
So basically, what we're doing is we're playing 1 degree of separation with Alice Wolf. Like, yeah, Alice Wolf name a connection with any faith enterprise in the United States of America within 1 or 2 degrees. Yes.
That's
Well,
great.
thanks for going through this.
Yeah,
How long are
thank
your,
you.
when you go to your meetings or classes, how long are they?
Should we stop sharing or keep going?
up to you.
You
Okay.
can stop, I'm just curious. Go
Um,
for 2 hours or something?
They're an hour and a half, and there's 2 to 3 a month.
Wow, that's a big commitment for you.
Yeah, wow,
So
Good for
thank
you.
you for doing that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not learning all, I'm getting some of it, so.
Well,
The
yeah,
more-
it's probably a bit overwhelming. It's like,
Just a bit.
yeah, but come back in 6 months and you'll be the expert on it, huh?
Okay, if you say so.
You can stop sharing.
Oh, yeah.